just prior warning, I'm really nervous right now. When I'm nervous, I talk really, really quick. I'll slow down in the middle, so just bear with me. So anyway, oh. So anyway, for this talk, we're going to be talking about design, like of the careers. My career, my path, Jenny's path, being an employee number 2, and my path as a founder of one of the studios. And then we can do some Q&As. So what we're going to be talking about is design titles and how to basically design between them. So in general, for titles, I've always been asked this question multiple microphone. It's getting nervous. I've always been asked multiple times, what do you call yourself? I'm pretty old. I've started in like 2008 was my career. And before, these were the titles that I was kind of associated with. Associate designer, senior designer, art director, associate ACD, creative director, VP, blah, blah, blah. This is where I kind of played around with. And then later on, things started to move around a little bit where titles started to become, I got known to be a visual designer. I became a UX designer. I became an ID. It was everything. And till this day, people still kind of ask me, what type of designer am I? I would probably say I'm kind of all of this. Because the other question someone always asks me, since I've been here for so long, is are you an IC or are you a manager? This is the path that's always given to most people when they want to kind of diverge. I play both. I'm a very high-level director, but I'm also a very hands-on director at the same time. And juggling that is somewhat a little hard. And I can go between these titles before. I kind of, in terms of like leadership styles, I consider myself of not like a coach and player or general thing. I'm more of like a chef in a restaurant. Lights are off, I'm kind of still cooking. Lights are on, I'm helping as much as I can. And that's my leadership style overall. And then the next question recently we just talked about is, are you worried about AI at all? I've been doing this for a while. I'll give you my honest truth. I'm looking at it, but it's nothing that's basically, I'm kind of used to changing all the time. My entire career has always changed from one thing to another, going from desktop to mobile to 3D to AR. I think I've done almost every part of media with design in general. Founder of studio. Anyway, and then the future titles are coming up as AI designers, as you heard, generative AI specialist, prompt engineer, and generative artist. I've been dabbling with all these kinds of things. I'm right now making an app on Lovable, actually, basically making a TV app that's a little bit more complex. I'm playing with generative AI right now because basically I run a beauty company that does a lot of like social and marketing as well too, that I'm kind of dabbling as well. So before I start, the one thing I want to say is why I got into this. I came into this industry because I have a love for technology and art. I used to be a nurse before this, and what's happening is I decided to hate it, like every Filipino, like I'm done with this. And I wanted to follow my future. I wanted to be a designer in some sort of way. In terms of technology, I loved everything from like popular mechanics. In terms of art, I used to like draw every Spider-Man thing you can think of. But I want to start off with like back in the day. The story of how when the camera was introduced. Before the 1800s, basically this is what painting used to look like. It was a little bit more descriptive, like paint this still, paint a portrait because I want to be remembered forever. Paint this battle, whatever it is, as much detail as you can see through your eyes. But then when the first camera came around, basically this is around 1800 something, don't quote me on that. The camera took like 7 minutes to basically photograph this. And this is actually the first man that got photographed because everything was moving except the guy that was getting his shoe shined. So he became accidentally the first human to be photographed in general. But after this camera came, art started to become a little bit different. It had to, instead of being so descriptive and so exact, it started to become a little bit more about feelings and what the artist felt. Or a little bit more surrealism, like I'm just looking at things like what's going through my mind that's a little bit more crazier that not everyone's like actually feeling out. And then as the camera also evolved, technology evolved with it. This is basically a combination of a Motorola StarTech, I had this phone when I was in middle school, and a Casio digital camera. And there was someone, a founder, basically, he was still working, I don't know why he was working this time. When his wife was in labor, he took the very first camera phone photo out that he sent to his friend. And this is where photos were before. And till this day now, this is where cameras are now. They're very, very exact. They're very, very precise. I think these are better than, depending on the daylight, it's a lot better than most 5,000, 7,000 cameras that I used to buy when I was a little younger, or a lot younger. But I just had a wedding a couple years ago. And with that camera, I decided to bring around a film camera. I took a picture of my dog. I took a picture of my table settings. These are things that, in my opinion, is what I felt a little bit more nostalgic for versus the professional photographer I hired. I actually have these displayed around my house overall. So in my opinion, as the camera feed, like from realism, it's like it basically took the artist away from painting to be a little bit more different, to feel different things and to just explore different ways. And one example I wouldn't say is this photo I took. I was just 22, probably like 15 to 20. Oh my God, I'm old. 20 years ago. This is a Canon 5D professional camera. I remember 135, 2.8. I was such a camera geek, and I took this photo. I went out with my friends. And I remember when I took it, I was so proud, but then I put it on Flickr. I was trying to make money. I made nothing. But then a year later, someone actually took my photo and sold it by painting it. They sold it for $1,200. And I thought this was the only one. Then I did this presentation. Then I found out 15 different people did this. And these are the highest price that I saw. So 8,800 to 12,500. So my question, like, this is where I start to think about things. What do people value? Is it that instance, or is that the instant like gratification, or is that actual work and input that you put into things? So, with that said, we're going to be talking about careers and what we've done. And I'm going to introduce you to Jenny. She's one of our employee number 2 of playlist that we hired. But yeah, oh God.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and it's my first time presenting in this bigger crowd, so please bear with me. I'm also just employee number 2, so okay. So, um, earlier, uh, Sinran and Ray talked about a lot of important things, and I know that all the titles and shifting roles and the changes in the industry can sound very overwhelming. So I wanted to share my experience of how I'm navigating through this uncertainty, finding my path along the way. So I graduated from SVA, not Pratt, and I was an international student. So my top priority was I need a job and I have visa concerns, so, but I really want to survive here. I was very anxious about everything. Like if I start working, how is the industry actually going to be like? And there's so many different types of companies, like startups, all the different corporates, and even at agencies, there's so many different types of agencies. So that was very anxious, but thankfully I had my mentor who helped me kept focus, which is Ray. So he taught my senior year at SVA, and he showed us a lot of his work. He was at Work& Co. at that time. It's a agency as well, and I admired everything that he did. And I thought, oh, I want to follow the same path or similar path. So I was sending out a bunch of emails applying for places, kind of narrowed down to agencies now. Then one of them was Instrument. I don't know if if you guys know about Instrument, and who happened to be attending our industry day, which is like a design show like we have in Pratt. Um, and I met them, and long story short, I got accepted. I got an offer, and I said yes. And I packed all my stuff and I flew to Portland in Oregon, which I never been. I never been in my life. And I still remember it was July 15th. I landed in Portland and I started work the next day, 16th. So crazy. Um, yeah, Instrument. So joining Instrument felt like landing on a dream opportunity of one of the most exciting and up and coming agencies. So just to share my earlier works in the career. So this is one of the work that I worked on for Cannondale. It's a bicycle brand. So we did from rebranding the whole site, and like picking colors, typographies, and the whole site as well, like PDP, product detail page, landing, and etc. etc. And then another project that I worked on was for Sonos, Sonos.com. And when I found out that I was going to work on this project, I was thrilled because I thought Sonos was so cool. And it's still one of my very favorite project. Yeah, we designed everything. I was so proud. And then so not just the website itself, I got to do like a kiosk for electronic shops like Best Buy, so people can compare, like play on different speakers and compare the specs, and also created visuals and also illustrations like that. And then as over the years, I got to work on other projects like Salesforce. It's a bit cuter with characters, but I got to work on a lot of design systems here. And then also worked on a lot of Google projects. So as I was getting more comfortable into or getting exposed to more broader brands, I became a senior designer. And earlier on in my career, I thought I wanted to be really picky. I only wanted to do cool projects. But it's impossible. Even till now, it's impossible. And quickly I realized that it's more of the people that makes a project fulfilling rather than a logo. And also, I also just wanted to just design cool things. And I really did not enjoy design systems or making decks or presenting like this. But I'm so grateful that I had no choice or power to pick, because I realized that it's actually those tedious and intimidating moments that really force myself to push myself out of my comfort zone. Yeah. So I started when Instrument was less than 200 people, and I witnessed the company growing, doubling up in size or more. So I stayed there for 6 years, which is rare in knowing that in this industry norm, it's a standard that a lot of people move and go after 2 years or 2 or 3 years. Of course, I had temptations because everyone else is doing it. And I was wondering, like, did I stay too long? Like, am I slow now? But I didn't want to make the decision based on pressure. Um, but eventually, I got to a space where I could actually look back and reflect and appreciate the whole experience, even the toughest and the less exciting parts. And I found out that I actually learned the most when I was stuck. Yeah, so like that clarity gave me confident, and I was content. So I decided to make the huge shift, going into a startup of less than 10 people. So I'm still a senior designer here, but these titles are different every company, and they mean different things. So even though, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So the smaller size, right? Smaller size and teams meant more trust, more ownership, and a completely different mindset. So I started taking wider range of responsibilities. So not just website, apps, or design system. Now I'm doing photo shoots as well, packaging, and et cetera, et cetera. So the work looks different from before, but it's a new learning. Uh, and by many ways, it just feels like I'm getting started again. Thank you.
Here, okay. So Jenny just walked you through, she's a lot younger than me, so she's super accomplished, but I wanted you to associate with someone your age maybe, because I've been doing this for like 20 years now. But I'm gonna give you my path of like how I went from the very beginning to where it is now. The worlds to me are not too much different. Like I said, things are always changing. You've got to get accustomed to it. What we do as a designers, especially in digital, is just moving really quickly. But before I start my career or in design, this is what my positions before. I used to work at McDonald's as a line chef. I used to be a waiter. I used to be a caterer at Marquee for doing weddings and bar mitzvahs. I used to be a break dancer at those bar mitzvahs. And I used to be a dietitian as well at a hospital, which I eventually became a LDRP, so labor and delivery. So I had all these different kinds of jobs before a designer. Um, someone always asks me, it's like, what, like, hey, I'm an illustrator. I want to be a product designer. Is that associated? To be honest, anything that you can have in your job that you can layer makes you a lot more stronger. I think I lead teams the way I lead teams at McDonald's, how organized, how, okay, things are getting messy right now. Things are slow. What do you do? I know how to kind of somewhat talk to clients because as a breakdancer, I had to talk to a bunch of bar mitzvah moms for some reason. So get my tip. Dietitian, having a little bit empathy when I have to talk to a lot of older gentlemen or women to talk about like, hey, sorry, you're gonna have a puree diet. I don't know what to do. This is what your doctor said. But also understanding the pain that they were going through. But later on, I went to FIT. I graduated there and got a job right away at RGA. During that time, like I said, it was very early. Like ID was starting to come around. Like I didn't really know what that meant. To be honest, in school, I was learning how to do layout design with a grid paper and cutout and scanning it. That's how old I am. And once it happens from there, my career shifted almost every 6 months to almost every year. This is my entire career within 2 years. My first project was on the basketball where I got to work with LeBron James and Kobe and all those people. It was really awesome because those were the dream team back in the day where I got to work on like content with them and make websites for them. It was very kind of just like all marketing. But then after that, Facebook started getting stronger where I don't know if you guys remember this, but there's a thing called a Facebook app where I started designing things that on how ballers could meet each other. Then I got introduced to what is eventually what is product design or UX and UI design is. The very first app that Nike ever made, which is Nike Plus GPS, which is now called Nike Run. So with that, I spent around how 8 years at RGA. I was there for a while, 7 to 8 years, give or take. I learned a lot. And then the cool thing about when I was there, since I was in an agency, I learned how marketing worked, I learned how brand worked, and I learned how product design worked all in one shop. So it gave me so many different layers and perspectives, but I really, really fell in love with product design. So I wanted to know what I should do. So, oh wait, too early. What I'm known for in this is at RGA was this one. Is that I was a creative director, and this is one of the very first projects I actually led, which is FuelBand, which is one of the very first wearable devices. All the things that we did here was like super brand new, and everything here after basically they sunsetted this project is eventually we worked with Apple to basically bring out Apple Health. So the whole like ring, the watches and all that stuff is basically associated with here. You have super goals, kind of like your awards. We have the similar kind of things because Nike and Apple are very good friends. But eventually I really fell in love with that world of product design. So I ended up becoming one of the third design director at Working Co. When I went there, I kind of just dived deeper more into like that whole product design world of designing like e-commerce sites, like basically like ESOP. Designing the Equinox app from the ground up, from the very first code to production to QA, we did the entire production. But I'm kind of restless. I don't know why. I always want to see what I can do outside of work. And what's happening is while I was at Working Co, I decided to do a startup with a bunch of friends, someone from RGA, another rich CEO guy, and we basically formed a company called Clarity Money. Within 6 months, we had 1 million users. Within 1 year, we had 2 million. And then within that first year, I got into a job where we sold to a company that I never thought I would go to. I ended up becoming the head, oops, oh, Clarity Money, man, I gotta do these presentations better. I ended up becoming the head of design at Goldman Sachs. At Goldman Sachs, I basically kind of redid with my team, redid the branding for Marcus, as well as the website, and basically launched the very first app. Everything we learned from Clarity Money here, we kind of converted back to the Marcus app itself, which is what you see today. I did that for a year. It was great. I'm not really a fintech guy. I actually love fintech. I just don't know. It's a environment that's very hard to be a designer. And I respect anybody in fintech because if you're in that world, you're basically kind of like pushing, trying to do good work through everyone that doesn't know or care for design. And that made me learn a bunch of new things to really push on. It was also one of the very first positions where I kind of like dived into where I was the head of marketing, the head of brand design, and product design. And I had a lot of fun doing that. So what ends up happening is I ended up leaving Marcus after we launched the app, and I wanted to go back to something like I was comfortable with, but uncomfortable at the same time. When I was in Nike, I was doing tracking devices, like going for a run, Nike training, things like that. Sneakers is a whole different ballgame. It's basically the hottest shoes of fashion and things like that. We are part of culture. As an e-commerce point, is the weirdest app I've ever worked on. Because the reason why is we actually made it harder for you to get the damn shoe. Because our shoe is sold within like 2 seconds. Anytime we dropped a shoe, it was sold out right away. We had activation things. I think we drove a tank through Soho and we got in trouble for it with Travis Scott. We just did so much crazy stuff. And I was part of the content team, the brand team, the marketing team, and things. I will go faster. And from there, I started going to another startup called Buble, which is basically I became the head of design for. I'm going to go a lot more faster. And this is where I learned I'm still here, still building things where we're working with influencers and talent to basically figure out how to make it easier to do production from packaging design to actually even marketing a world. And right now I'm working with a K-pop star called, her name is Somi, which this is basically her glyph, which just launched. It's going to launch in a couple days. Now I'm a co-founder of a studio. I'm one of the 4 partners or the 4 founders of Playlist Studio itself. We're a small company. We were founded just a couple years ago. We have 6+ people. We're in Brooklyn, and we kind of dive in a bunch of different industries. And I just showed you a bunch of skill sets that I had to learn. I kept layering things on over, and this is something that I had to learn again, how to make a company from scratch. I'm a designer by heart, and I had to learn QuickBooks and Gusto. This was insane to me. I was using so much ChatGPT to figure out what to do with lawyers and stuff, but this is what our finance system used to look like because I did everything in Figma because I just wanted to make our invoice pretty. That's how stupid I was. I got smart, used a lot of AI and all this stuff, but I learned how to like work with what I had and really try to figure out, instead of doing all my insurance in Figma, I actually hired the right people. Then I got out of my comfort zone, reaching out to people. I don't do this. I'm an introvert. Super introvert. I hate this right now. I can talk to a bunch of C-suites, like I told you, like it's ease, but to designers, I'm always kind of scared because like you always have taste. Don't, okay, this is gonna get published. Oh shit. But I had a lot of confidence. Like I started building my confidence. This is actually one of our first clients. I reached out to someone from La Mer. She was a VP there. She was like, I haven't talked to her in 10 years. I reached out, like, hey, here's a Halo. Do you want to hire a studio? And she said yes. And we're still working with her today. And these skill sets are basically kind of like evolving while I'm layering things as a designer, what I do. And what with all those designs, layering things I've done, it made me a little bit more understanding, like whatever I worked on was a little bit more powerful. Running a studio made me understand how a founder thinks. Running a studio let me know like how much money is this. Working with compliance and lawyers at Goldman Sachs made me learn how to pull things around. And right now, this is our selected clients. Actually, these are our clients right now. We're working with Stanford, Hinge, Walmart, Hogue, and these are, like, you can see all the work. I gave you a bunch of visuals and stuff like that, but Hinge, we're working with the future of AI. Walmart was the future of AI. Stanford is the future of AI. Half of these companies are pure AI, but we're still hiring us to make their logos, to make their visuals. They still come to us for our taste and for what you said was empathy and our point of view as someone different. And this is a little real. Oops. So final thoughts, kind of like what you said. Thanks. So I'll end with this. I know you probably see a lot of talks about AI. You've probably seen a lot of LinkedIn stuff. And you're always wondering, like, man, as a designer, how am I going to survive this? I think what the previous speaker said was true. Make sure you layer yourself. Like, you don't have to basically design within one like path. Get new experience to basically layer your point of view. And the more you can understand how to do that, the more basically your designs are a little bit more unique that can't be outputted so easily. And with that said, my final thoughts, I hope this is pressure is a privilege and only comes to those who earn it. And I love this saying because right now, if you're thinking about what to do next, that means you're still in the game. There's still something you could do about it. The game's not over, and there's always somewhere you can basically put your path through. Cool, thanks. All right, Ryan, I got a little over.
Okay. I think we have the Slido open for questions, right? Oh, there's no questions. Maybe, does anyone have a live question that they would like to ask then? Oh, there's a question over here. Yeah.
Playlist studio hiring. Yes, for the summer we're hiring interns.
Question over here.
Okay.
Okay, hi, I'm Julie. Thanks for the presentation. It was great. What project or work are you doing right now that you're most excited about?
Oh, that's a lot. There's too many. I mean, the one exciting thing that we're working on right now is actually the future of e-commerce for Walmart. That's super integrated with AI in general. How does that look like? They're changing the whole paradigm. Like, I wish I could show you a lot of the work. It's totally revamping the website. But I'm excited, but I'm also like, there's questions that I'm asking. How much information do you want to give to a brand? Like, for example, like, do you want to give Walmart like all your data about like your family so it could recommend you the best toy for your kid? Even those recommendations, like what can we do? Like, I think there's something like AI is electricity. I would probably say AI is probably more like the internet. It's basically a big shift, but we have to be careful around it. Like what the internet did to human society is kind of like a little weird. So I don't want to be that guy that basically regrets making the feed in Instagram. So how do we, even though we have these projects, how do we kind of look at that and kind of answer new questions? And my fun part of the reason why it's so fun for me is when I started product design the very first time, there was no such thing as like best practices and things. It was a wild, wild west, and we were just having so much fun. And I think we're in that same place, but this time around, I think we're just trying to be very, very careful. Sure.
How
You had no questions.
got it. How do you guys choose clients, and like what do you look for in a client that excites you? Because it seems very diverse and interesting projects that you work on.
To be honest, I think it's a bit of both. Like what I mean by that is like, for example, we'll take some of the biggest clients, but we'll also take some of the smallest clients. For example, one of the clients we worked for was a company called Maya, which is like a restaurant right across my street. I talked to my head of finance, like, yo, I want this project because I just want to say I designed that restaurant, but my partner, because it's just like an ego thing. But I thought it was like to help like a small business. And when we did that, we did some really cool stuff. It's called Maya. It's based on a, what do you call that thing again? A lazy Susan. And because the owner named that after her child, who's half black and half Chinese. Yeah. Oh, I love her. See, small world. So when Fabric when we designed that, we did it for free, pretty much. We invested a lot of like output into it. But then once it happens, we took that same project and then we were trying to pitch another project for Dolby. We're doing some of the branding system for them, and they saw that project, and that's the reason why we got hired. So in terms of projects, like we'll take what we think is good for the business, what we think is good for to get more recommendation, to get things like that. But we also want to make sure since we're such a small team, like I have a list of things that Jenny wants to work on and the other designer wants to work on. And because to me, owning a studio, our product is really our designers. I always have a saying with them. If you're at a place that basically you feel like everyone's asking you to have a job, like Facebook is calling her and all this stuff, like you'll stay. Like if you have more options, you'll stay at a company. The less options you have, you'll leave the company, because this is what I did. Cool. Any more? Okay. I'm gonna try to go for it.
I'm curious how you continue, like, it sounds like you've gone through a lot of different, technical changes. How do you keep learning about like what's new? How do you train your taste? Like, do you read things? Do you listen? Like,
We just basically had like, we're a small company. We basically had to do our company ethos. Recently, I had to like have a hands-on with 5 people. It was very nerve-wracking for me, but we basically kind of showcased like what we expected from our designers. To be honest, as a studio, we kind of told them it's very hard to promise you like a 9 to 5. Our projects is a roller coaster. And to be honest, as a creative, I can't turn my brain off. If I have something, I'm just gonna work through it. So we give them days off when we need to. But we always have a saying like work hard so you can live your life like more. The more you live your life, the more you experience things, the more you bring into things. For example, when I design apps, I actually design it like Frank Lloyd Wright's house. Like I imagine like an entrance, like compression and release, like an onboarding. It's like, okay, how do I compress you enough that basically when you enter this, everything's done, we release you. So it's a magical app. So I look at like different ways versus like just going through LinkedIn and Twitter and like just following what everybody else is, having a different point of view and just learning that way. That's where I got a lot of my influences and kind of just learning. And I would say the other thing is, I think the value of a designer really is not like just pure technicality. It's just pure curiosity. I'm always trying to learn something new. I'm always not afraid of this. Even though AI is kind of like it's there, I just want to know more about it to empower like how I design overall.
Well, we have time for one more question.
Oh, there are?
Okay. We'll take one from the Slido then.
Okay. What does your typical day look like? Good question. So for me personally, do you want to answer this? I've been talking so much. You talk.
I'll tell you what a typical day looks like as an employer number 2. So we're not 9 to 5. But there's a lot of flexibility as well, which I think I should be better with coming in time. But I mean, we do work late sometimes because we get really busy, but they're very fair. So, and I learn a lot because of how small it is. I actually get to see them pitching and like talking to new business. There's a lot of exposure, so I learn a lot of the business side more, even though I'm employer number 2. Yeah.
Should I answer that still?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, where Jenny comes from, her point of view is she's like exposed to everyone. Sometimes I'm like, oh shit, she saw how much this is. But it's my typical day is weird. So each one of the partners kind of has to play a role now. So I used to basically gauge my success through pure design, but now I have to gauge my success not through only design, but how good they're doing. Like I measure them like, oh shoot, am I doing as a good manager? Are they learning? Are they progressing? Another one is I had to take an admin role where I'm doing new business. So I don't know how to really say what my typical day is. I think it's a kind of a juggle. How I juggle it is more like I got used to it. I can't really say like this is the process and you're gonna get through it. Like today, I think I had 3 new business calls. I finished 3 projects and basically came here scared as hell. So that would be my day. Okay, that was it, right? I'm way out of time.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Everyone give Jenny and Ray a round of applause.